Coming up on International Trade Focus. President Trump's new 10% import tariff is already sending shockwaves through the global markets, and Ghana is not exempt. How will this affect our exporters, AGOA, and the prices Ghanaian businesses now face at the US border? Plus, we speak with the Federation of Association of Ghanaian Exporters, FAGE, to hear how businesses are reacting and what options are on the table. It's a critical time for Ghana's trade strategy, and we are breaking it all down. Hi there, thanks for tuning in to another edition of International Trade Focus, where we break down global trade shifts and what they mean for businesses here in Ghana. On today's episode, we are unpacking the US government's newly implemented 10% universal tariff. So what does this mean for Ghanaian exporters, AGOA, and our long-term trade strategy? Join me, Anna Spio, as we connect the dots between global policy and Ghana's business reality. This is International Trade Focus. We'll be back after this break. Now, we've seen the bigger picture. Let's now hear from the Federation of Association of Ghanaian Exporters on how the tariff is landing on the ground and what it means for Ghanaian businesses. Our in-depth segment comes up next. Hi there, I'm now joined by Davis Kobo. He's the president of the Federation of Association of Ghanaian Exporters, FAGE. We want to unpack this 10% US tariff and what it actually means for Ghanaian exporters, not just in theory, but on the field. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. President.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
So let's dive right into it. I know that FAGE has issued a communique. Let's briefly summarize what was in the communique.
Basically, like you rightly said, it's about the, I would say, unwarranted 10% imposition, tariff imposition on us as Ghanaian exporters. And we felt that, look, even though we're not shocked, we still felt that once AGOA is in session and the expiration date is just September 30th, they could have waited till it expired before maybe we do this. And one will ask why. Irrespective of, our export to the US market is not that huge. I mean, just about 5.6%. And then if you look at the value, it's a lot of money. And if you look at the things that are involved, we have the garment, apparel, agricultural produce, chemicals that's crude oil and the like. I think for petroleum, that's leading. And for the fresh produce, we're doing almost $154 million US dollars a year, 52 million US dollars a year. We are the biggest exporters to the American market. If you talk about yam, the next seconded by Jamaica, 51 point something million dollars. So it means that what it means for us is because there is an agreement which is going to expire in September, people also have various agreements and MOUs with other buyers over there to supply. And then all of a sudden, boom, this 10%. So what is going to happen is, I did my own checks. We got in touch with some of the buyers and they are not ready to absorb the 10%. So it's going to be passed on to the exporter, the aggregator. But the question here is, the producer down there, what is their margins on even the product that they sell? Is it between 10 to 12, at most 15%? Even that is one of the best with all the sweat and other things. The aggregator gets about 5%. You understand me? So if you put 10%, how do you go on it? You add 10% tariff to it, then what you are saying is the aggregator will need to go to the bank and borrow to pay that your 10%. You understand me? Instantly. But if they had waited for the expiration of the AGOA September, just 30th September, or if they would have even prompted Ghana for some negotiations, then who also our exporters would have started speaking with their buyers to see whether they also want to continue or not. But as we speak today, we still have containers on sea transiting to the United States market. So what happens to those ones? Because the tariff starts now, it's instant. And that has been a problem. Hitherto, I call it a blessing in disguise, in the sense that I think that we have aftermarket of 3.4 trillion GDP.
Yeah.
3.4 trillion after market GDP. So it means that what is happening is, if we put ourselves together and put our right policies in place, good logistics and answers, we are able to trade among ourselves and forget about all these Western buyers who dictate, who thought they could dictate to us. Because you know, in any case, whilst we allow a country to dominate our trade, you understand me, our trade point, sales point, and that's exactly what the United States is doing now. So I think that yes, even though it's a blow, it is a blessing in disguise for us to see what next we want to do.
Right, so we'll delve deeper into the continental free trade markets. But you mentioned that for you, it didn't come as a shock to you. Why is that?
Yeah, because, you know, where we sit, it started from somewhere February when, you know, we've been dealing with USAID. Then all of a sudden, they sponsored some of our activities. For instance, we've been attending one of the biggest fruit and vegetable fairs in the world is in Germany, Berlin. So every first February, first week in February, we attend such fairs. This year, they decided to sponsor some few exporters, about 25, 30 of them. They bought them a ticket, then 2 days before our departure, they called me to come to the GTI office. I went there, and apparently they said they've been instructed to cancel the tickets because USAID, per the instructions, they are withdrawing USAID. So anything associated with USAID, any program should cease. And I had to argue, because if you bought tickets for over 3 weeks and the people are leaving in 2 days, why do you withdraw? And I even asked that, look, is it not going to cost you? Because we said, look, the duty bearer said, look, they'll prefer getting the ticket less with discount than giving it to us. So what I did was to arrange with some of the exporters to say that, look, you know what, if you're going to purchase ticket at the time, it's going to be expensive because you have just 2 days to leave. So why don't we go pay for sale tickets and rather allow it to be, so that instead of them canceling those tickets. So we got some of the exporters paying for their tickets. Others decided, no, I wouldn't. And so when this came, it didn't come as a shock. And again, we were doing a couple of programs with them, which was with you, so, and with them. So we felt that, look, we knew something could happen, but we didn't know that it was going to be a 10% tariff that was going to slap on us. Again, I mean, during President Trump's campaign, he promised employment for his people. You understand? So policy-wise, maybe that is what you want to do, because the thing is, if you saw it, the surplus, he worked the 10% of the surplus you get. So maybe the surplus we are getting, whether it's what you want to absorb as an employment for his people. That's the more reason why I said it didn't really come as a shock to us. But the mode at which it was done is what we felt disappointed. And we felt that if you're in agreement with somebody and there's a need for them to maybe tweak something to that agreement, the two parties will have to sit and negotiate or discuss or have conversation and see what to do. But unilaterally, somebody just woke up a day and said, look, I'll slap 10% on you. You know, we have foreign embassies all over. You understand me? In the United States, we have good relationship with America. So I felt that it was just necessarily important for them to have informed or call for a discussion before doing that.
And it's quite interesting to see what this is sparking, where other countries are also slapping their own tariffs. And, you know, when it looks like whenever President Trump is in office, there's this, you know, pockets of trade wars going around globally. But for a country like Ghana, unfortunately, we are not part of the big shots. So we can't, for instance, say that we are also going to slap certain tariffs on products that are coming in from America and stuff like that.
You can't slap tariffs, but I think there are ways to also do it. You can also restrict certain things. You understand me? Because for me, yes, we have the bishop, but then when you want to state for somebody to be a bishop forever, you could start somewhere. America wasn't built in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day. You understand me?
Yeah.
It took their effort and discussions like this for them to get to where they are. So I felt that, look, if there's something we can also do, we should also do it. We should also trigger that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And it all seems backwards because for countries that are under the WTO and they're trying to stay away from protectionism and all of that, when you see some of these things, it just makes you feel like we're going backwards as, like the globe. So anyway, now I believe that you touched briefly on the specific export sectors that have been affected or that will particularly be affected by this. Can we go through that again?
Yeah. So I know the garments and textiles is affected, apparel is affected. Then, of course, gold was also affected. The crude, cocoa, and the agricultural produce were also affected. Yes.
So going forward, you mentioned that this should be seen as a blessing in disguise. Of course, there are going to be a lot of growing things because you mentioned how certain products are even on the sea going and the tariffs take effect immediately, right? So it's going to affect a lot of our exporters. Aside that, what do you see in the future for Ghana's export sector?
For me, I think the worry here is we've not been able to transcend our produce beyond our borders. Even though we've been doing a lot of trade shows, fairs, a lot. I think we've not been able to take advantage of our embassies. That's the one reason why I'm happy with. I listened to Honorable Kujetu Ablakwa when during his vetting, and he said he's going to task all the embassies to be up and doing by doing certain things. So these are some of the things. We have embassies all over, even all over the world. About 90% of the globally. So I think that they should be able to promote what we have here and once they make a lot of noise, we are able to, because the issue here is once we have the produce, we should be able to get it out there. And let it tie down to the 24-hour economy. I know that the current government, the previous government did the one factor where we add value to our produce. I think that is the way to go. We should rather start adding value to our produce so that we become a hub. Once we become a hub, we get other countries to be able to supply to. So all year round, it becomes a whole chain for us to be able to supply to. So the same America, maybe whatever they need, they will still come because we've added value. I think you understand me. So these are some of the things we need to look at. And again, like I say, if you look at the Africa trade itself, it's huge. Just Nigeria here, if we have added value to certain things, we could sell all those things there for a lot of money. So these are the measures I think that we should be looking at. Let's strengthen our intertrade, and also let's try to promote what we want to do better than we used to do. The one factor, like I said, is on. The 24-hour economy is on now better. The value addition is what our focus should be on.
So are you getting any feedback from your members? What is actually happening? Especially those who have shipments already on the way, those who have had their goods, reach the US exchange. Are you getting any feedback?
Yes, we've had a couple of feedbacks. Yesterday we have to go on with, the FAGE, our mother agency is Ghana Export Promotion Authority, and I know they've placed a lot of calls, and I wasn't surprised that yesterday morning, just after my Joy News interview, and I pleaded that there should be a discussion with the embassy. Honorable Kujetu Ablakwa moved in to meet the embassy. Whatever discussion they had, you listen. It was open. So for me, I think it is one step. Because what the feedback we are getting from our members is that, yes, the people, I said, look, I have a contract with you. You are supposed to supply me at $1. I'm not going to part on the $10 cent rate, which is 10%. I'm not going to, so you have to absorb it. Do you understand me? And that is it. So we are still negotiating, we are still in discussion, we are still having a good conversation with the buyers out there to see what they can also do to help. At the same time, Ministry of Trade is also trying to engage the exporters to see how best it can be handled without, breaking anybody's back.
You're watching International Trade Focus, and we are taking a look at the 10% universal tariff that the U.S. has imposed on all imports coming into the U.S. market, including imports from Ghana. Joining us in this conversation is the president of the Federation of Association of Ghanaian Exporters, FAGE, Davis Kobo. We'll be right back after this break. A warm welcome back. You're still watching International Trade Focus. The conversation continues with the president of the Federation of Association of Ghanaian Exporters, FAGE, on the 10% universal tariff that the U.S. has imposed on all imports going into the U.S. market. We can dive into the continental free trade area market proper. According to the GEPA, we did about $1.7 billion as far as continental free trade is concerned. When I saw that, I thought that, yes, the figures seem impressive because it started not so long ago. So let's dive deeper into the African continental free trade area. Being the president of FAGE, I'm sure that you are, on several round tables where these conversations are had. What do you think that we need to pay attention to when it comes to the African continental free trade area?
I think for me, like you said, we managed to do over $1 billion just at the beginning. And if we push hard, we should be able to do more. Don't forget, I said that it has a 3.4 trillion GDP. So that means that if we're able to beat the billions, we should be able, if you really want to stay in billions, then we should be able to do double, triple digits and less than what we are currently doing. And why are we not be able to do that? Let's take Kenya, for instance. For the aftermarket, I think the first thing they need to look at is logistics. So if you take Kenya, currently, Ghana Export Promotion Authority, they have what they call the trade house there, where whatever gets there today is in high demand. So in the next few days, it's gone. But look at the route. If you want to send things there by vessel, it takes 60 days. The thing goes all the way to Europe before descending to how do you call it, the Kenya. The same thing. Currently, as it stands, we have some deals to send things to Sierra Leone. Getting vessels to Sierra Leone is becoming a problem. You understand? Even just Nigeria here, getting vessels to Nigeria is becoming a problem. So what it means is you need to go by air freight. But are you going to be competitive? The answer here is no. And even the air freight, yes, I know. If you are going to go, it is a whole lot. So I think that first of all, we should look at our borders first, because free movement, that should be encouraged. We should really align policies to see which one works better than the other and see how best we can handle it. Then the third one is for us to look at the logistics, especially the transportation. It's very important we do that. So once that is done, I think that seamlessly we should be able to penetrate each other's market without any problem. Because don't forget, we have, let's talk about Ghana. I don't want to talk about any other country, but if you talk about Ghanaian exporters and the producer, fortunately I'm the chairman of the National Farmers and Fishermen Award Winners Association, so I also know a lot about the producer. They are very hardworking. Our exporters are very good. You understand? They want to do things right. Our agencies, the PPIs here, who are really working. You understand me? So it means that whatever we turn out of this country is one of the best, grade one and the like. So let's rather try as using the advantage of our various countries to build the EFTA after war better than we see currently, better negotiations, and then move on.
Yeah, as far as you're also concerned, do you think that the dissemination of information, as far as AFTA is concerned,
it is one of our major problems. Even those of us even our faith, it's scanty. I mean, the information is very scanty. Even though our mother agency is Ghana Export Promotion Authority, the issue is, do they even get all the information before we also snoop in to get any? You know, so I think it's scanty, like you are saying. So I think that is where their PR should be massive. I think for me, I think that is one thing the Secretariat need to work on. That they should have better PR supported by, like I said, the various embassies. They should reach out to people out there to tell them what is in need for all of us and how do we move it.
You mentioned that as far as you're concerned, I mean, the strength of the exporters in terms of what they're willing to do, the work that they're willing to put in, they're already putting in the work. What are some challenges that you see in the export sector, and perhaps how can governments and the right authorities come in so that we are able to strengthen the export sector?
So for me, if you ask me, the first thing I would say is regulation. So I know for sure, let me talk about the fresh produce industry. You know, Ghana, we have freedom of association.
Yeah.
You see, in every profession, there are ethics. There are some, with our people who think they really want to belong to any association. They sit at the fence and also do their own thing. And they are the people who bring a lot of flags. So our things get there, and they said, oh, your thing got there with, how do you call it, residue problem, chemical residue problem, and other things. When you dive down to the issue, you see that most of these people are not members of various associations. And these are some of the things we. So I think that the institutions that concern, even though there's freedom association, there are also acts supporting every institution. You understand, for implementation acts, so they should be able to enforce those ones. The next other thing is also funding. You see, we compete with all these people in the world, and here we are. Yesterday, 2 days ago, I saw a base rate in this country 28%. So it means that when I get back to the banks, I get nothing less than 35% per annum, and even that, I don't get a long-term facility. They're on a short-term. How am I going to work? You understand me? So these are some of the things I think that we should, government should look at. Currently, as we speak, the likes of the Asian tigers, and also the likes of Brazil, and we compete with them a lot. If you talk about fresh produce industry, they are still enjoying rent for, they are enjoying subsidy on almost every tariff. Yeah. You understand me? We are not enjoying this things. So I think that I'm happy that they have the 24-hour economy secretariat, Ghana's for promotion, that we will keep engaging. But what we want to say is we should really look into our funding. What I think we should do is to have a special purpose vehicle funding for agriculture and exports. You know, so export doesn't mean if it's agricultural produce or product or not. Yeah. Once it is for export, tailor-made funding for export, a single-digit interest rate and moratorium should be about a year. Once we get all these things, you don't break your back, so you'll be compelled to do more. Because in any case, if you look at the employment, the private sector employs more than government. You understand? So in any case, it's the same private sector that should be pushed and that should be encouraged to do that. And I've been saying that government has the biggest space, and until they spend, the private sector can never be viable. And that's the more reason why I think that there should be a special purpose vehicle for funding. I mean, for exports, agric, then also export in general. You understand me? Yeah.
I think that we're wrapping up. We've covered almost everything. How the news got to you, said you weren't surprised because you picked up on cues already before this happened. Yes. So for the not being surprised, I guess that from where you sit, perhaps in the future, in order not to be so shocked by some of these things, we would need to do our homework, or which we've discussed, the access to funding, government, perhaps coming in to make sure that we strengthen our export sector and all of that, so that some of these shocks do not, hit us so hard, right? So I believe that we've discussed basically everything, but before we go, what word would you give to your members in the wake of this 10% US?
I think for me, we've been calling them for the past weekend to let them know our involvement and the Federation support for them. We know that it's a dying moment, but we still want them to keep hope because we are still pushing to make sure that things work better than it's trying to turn out. Yeah, because in any case, they've already committed themselves to do it. I know they've been having some shocks already, so adding this short rate will be detrimental to their business. So whether they should stay calm and trust in us. And that's the more reason why we are pushing for alternative markets. I mean, come June, for instance, we are going to host what we call the Horti Expo, Horticulture Expo, just to make sure we get a lot of buyers also coming to Ghana, trooping to Ghana to see what we have, what we do, and also sign deals. Okay. So they should stay calm, and we are hoping to engage.
Your president says you should stay calm. Thank you very much, Davies Kobo. Thank you so much. And that was Davies Kobo. He is the president of the Federation of Association of Ghanaian Exporters. We took a look at the 10% export tariff that has been slashed on all exports going into the US, including exports from Ghana, and how it's going to affect the exporters community here. We'll be back shortly. And it's a wrap for this week's edition of International Trade Focus. Join us same time next week for some more on international trade-related activities here in Ghana and beyond. My name is Anaskio. Bye-bye.